What is Zuo Mod's primary business?
The primary business is the distribution. We source from about 85 different factories in 5 different countries, bring the products in here into the United States, Canada, or Mexico, and we do the distribution for here.
How is technology impacting your company for better growth?
We believe in technology. I think people don't want to call me on the phone and say, hey, Luis, where's my sofa that I ordered last week? So we're making that a lot easier. We also use technology for our content, not only AI, but the way we're creating our images, renders, and IMAX files to do 3D rotations.
Furniture companies operate on very high margins. So what are your thoughts there?
I think the problem with the furniture is this big, it's bulky. You have to think of the materials that furniture is used. Furniture needs to be resistant. Furniture needs to be heavy. So that's a lot of the cost. That's why probably people might get the idea that furniture is expensive.
As a consumer, how do I know, which furniture to buy?
Make sure that the brand that you're buying it from, the retail store or the manufacturer, has a good reputation. Read your reviews. If you're gonna buy furniture from myuglyfurniture.com, it might break really fast, but if you are buying furniture from the manufacturer you believe and you trust, and you know that if something goes wrong, they're gonna support you 100%, go for them.
Hello everyone, welcome to a new episode of Driven by DCKAP. I'm your host, Karthik, CEO of DCKAP. We make systems talk to each other for manufacturers and distributors. We are here in Oakland, California, the San Francisco Bay Area, with Ruesga, the Chief Executive Officer of Zuo Mod, a wholesaler and distributor of furniture. Louis, it's an absolute pleasure to be chatting with you, and thank you for joining me on the Driven Show.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Welcome to Oakland, California, like you say, at the headquarters of Zuo Mod. And thank you for taking the time to your busy schedule to be here with us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure, Louis, and thank you for your time. Louis, I was in preparation to this interview. I was researching a little bit. And one thing which caught my attention on your LinkedIn was you started your career as a bartender before Zuo Mod. But one thing which made me feel really good is you also had that listed on your LinkedIn as you worked as a bartender from this date to that date. So, it kind of teaches you the origins, and I think that's a great story for everyone. Can you tell us about your early days bartending and how did you transition from bartending to Zuo Mod?
I think, first of all, everybody should be proud of every job that you ever had. It doesn't matter what it was. And I love to see on the LinkedIn profiles when you started flipping burgers at McDonald's. Why not? If that was your first job, do it. So for me, when I was attending college and grad school, to pay for my student loans like everybody else, got a job at bartending. I loved it. I had a lot of fun, and I made a lot of connections. And I also think that it was my early lesson in life on how to be a salesperson. How can I sell you another drink? How can I make you laugh? How can I have fun with you from the other side? So I love my bartender days. I wish I could go back at least one weekend every year or something to do it again.
So it's amazing. It teaches you a lot of sales skills. I could relate to that as well. When I was doing my engineering, I was running some programs for the college, and I used to go door to door. Hey, buy this, become a sponsor for this campus event. We would love to host you and all that. So that was very, very cool. But how did you get into furniture? You co-founded the company with Steve Poon. So how did you get into the furniture business?
Well, once I graduated from Berkeley, I had to find my first job, right? It was time to mature and no longer to be a bartender anymore. And I got my first job at a small company who sell office supplies. And funny story, the person who interviewed me was Steve Poon. So that's how I met him. I started working with him there. And we became really, really good friends. Such a good friends that we start planning like, hey, how can we do this on our own? We were young. We were, I think, like 30 years old, 29 years old. And we're like, hey, how can we do this together? And that's where the idea of creating a company named Zuo and start selling 4 office chairs started.
How did the name Zuo come about?
So the name of Zuo, it was my partner's idea. He wanted a strong word, something that didn't mean anything in the vocabulary, but that means something for us. So the meaning of Zuo in Cantonese, for what I understand, is seat. And at that point, we were selling chairs. So we really liked the way the name presented. We wanted to be either the first company or the last company in the directory of a trade show. So it was easy for you to remember it. And that's what Zuo started. And it sticks. It sticks so much that sometimes when I'm walking on the street, people yell at me, Mr. Zuo, even that's not my last name, right?
Very cool. I mean, I've definitely read and also believe that, hey, being first in the directory is helpful. But I can relate to it. Even if you're last in the directory, it's a good thing because people look at the start and they look in the bottom.
It is, but it's tricky because some of the companies, they list, like, for example, when you are online and you're looking at the list of exhibitors, nobody make it to the seat. So it can be a good thing or a bad thing.
And working with Steve, right? So you guys have been together for 20 years. You co-founded the company. What are some of the highs and lows? And let's say, if there are disagreements, how do you guys manage all that?
So, we're partners on this 50-50, and it has been a very friendship, but a very respectful relationship, I think, and he can correlate with this. We had one fight over 20 years, and it was regarding the smell of the candles inside the showroom. And I think it was not really a fight. It was more we were under so much pressure. It was one of our first shows. He wanted one smell. I wanted another smell. It's just stupid like that. I think how the partnership works for us is very simple. I do sales and marketing, and he hates sales and marketing. And he does operational logistics, and I'm not in operations and logistics. So we don't get on each other's toes. He let me do my thing. He does his thing. And at the end, it works together, and we keep growing the company that way.
And you guys complement each other really well then.
Yeah, I think that's the best part when you have a wife or when you have a partnership. It's just if you find that perfect match, the sky's the limit.
So what is Zuo Mod's primary business? You distribute or you wholesale? What is the primary business?
The primary business is the distribution. We source from about 85 different factories in 5 different countries, bring the products in here into the United States, Canada, or Mexico, and we do the distribution for here.
And you also design the products?
That is correct, yeah. We have a team of 5 people, headed by Katie in our office in Hong Kong. She's our head of design, and she not only designed the products, but decides the textures and the trends that we're going to go in the next years. So we will have regular meetings with the design team and say, hey, what do you see in terms of colors, in terms of fabrics, in terms of texture? But our design team comes with all those crazy ideas.
And design becomes a big differentiator when it comes to furniture because people buy furniture because of the design.
Yes. So you're absolutely right. When you are in the fashion business, the design element is the most important. And unfortunately, we made a mistake in one of our collections. I think it was 2021 for outdoor, and it was a catastrophe on outdoor. We couldn't even sell it. We didn't get the right design, and people noticed, and people didn't buy it because of that.
So you guys don't do retail, it's mostly B2B?
Only B2B, yes. We have always, the company started like that 19, 20 years ago, and we're very successful at it, so we don't want to change that.
And I saw you recently opened a showroom in Atlanta as well, so tell us about that. What does that do? Is it like a walk-in center where I can just go see what you have available, or what is that?
No, I wish. We have 3 permanent showrooms, one in High Point, North Carolina, Las Vegas, Nevada, and the most recent Atlanta, Georgia. In these 3 showrooms, you can only go in if you have a resale license business. Either you can be a hotel, a restaurant, a bar, an interior designer, but not the end consumer. This is not a place where you can buy products just like a retail store.
So let's say if I run a hotel or if I run a hospital, I would come to Zuo Mod, and then you would pretty much furnish the entire hospital or entire hotel for me?
Not the entire. We only touch some specific products. So we're really strong at seating, tables, occasional, but we're not really strong at bedrooms or case goods. So, for example, and I'm just like, let's say we're in the Las Vegas showroom and the Caesar's Palace come in. And if they're looking for bedrooms, I'm not going to be able to help them. But if they're looking for 30 new bar stools for the casino, I'm your guy for that.
I looked at your bar stools, it's really well designed. So do you guys design those bar stools or how's that?
That is correct. So bar stool is probably one of our strongest category. We have about 500 different models, some made out of wood, metal, fabric, so all different materials, all for different applications. And I think that's one of the products that we're known the most for.
The bar stools.
That is correct, yeah.
And when it comes to manufacturing, you guys also manufacture the furniture, right? In addition to design, you also manufacture the furniture?
So it's a little bit more complicated than that. And let's take an example of this chair.
Nice.
So for example, this specific chair, we will outsource the base from somebody. We will buy the piston from another person. We will buy the fabric for another person. We will buy the plywood that is inside from another person. What we do ourselves is in our warehouse in China, we put all those together into one box, right? So we're outsourcing components to make one product as the final and ship it directly to the States.
And that is being done in China?
No, everywhere, 5 countries, China, India, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Mexico.
And what are some of the supply chain challenges, especially when you have across 5 countries? What are some of the supply chain challenges you see? Or
all of them. So, it's weather is one of them. If it's a monsoon happening in China right now, or if they are in holidays in India, or if there is a shortage of boats coming on the ocean, there is always something that is going to go wrong. But when you have so many products, hopefully the 1 or 2 that have an issue, they're not noticeable because you have 1,900 other products to choose from.
So it's very interesting. You work across multiple countries and you get the products, you assemble it, you get the products from different sources, assemble it there, get it shipped to the US. And is it more like furniture on demand or you pre-order it, or how does that work?
It's an act of faith. So when we look at a product like this table, we will say, well, how many do we think? I mean, our data tell us a lot of things, right? We already know how much of these side tables sell a year, and we're going to take an act of faith and say, well, this is a really good design. I might start with a higher order, or we're going to start with a smaller order. And then our ERP system will tell us like, hey, what is the velocity of the item? You should reorder it or you should discontinue it.
And you guys invest a lot in technology. Thank you for being a DCKAP customer.
Thank you.
And technology also is a big differentiator for you, being in the Bay Area. So can you tell us about that? And how is technology impacting your company for better growth?
I think people love the fact that we use like, for example, our portal on our website. Our customers love it. I mean, it's so easy for them to go and see their previous invoices, to see what's in stock, to use the filters to see, you can search only for pink chairs or for red sofas, what is in stock, what is shipping in 2 weeks. I want to see the tracking number for my previous order. So there is, we believe in technology. I think people don't want to call me on the phone and say, hey, Luis, where's my sofa that I ordered last week? So we're making that a lot easier. We also use technology for our content, not only AI, but the way we're creating our images, renders, and IMAX files to do 3D rotations. So technology is important for us, and I think being based in the Bay Area, we are obligated, Zuo, to be in the head of the technology.
And being in the Bay Area also helps you find more customers because there are a lot of customers in the area?
There is a big corporation, they're like Restoration and Hardware, Z Gallery, Pottery Barn, William & Sonoma, Cost Plus, Scandinavian Design. There is a lot of furniture companies based out here in the Bay Area, but we specialize nationwide. So we go for customers all over the United States.
And switching gears a little bit, when it comes to furniture, one thing which comes to mind is, hey, we have to cut trees and, it hurts the environment and all that. And sustainability is a very, very big component. And Zuo Mod also focuses a lot on sustainability. Tell us about your sustainability initiatives when it comes to furniture.
So compliance is a big thing for Steve Poon. So Steve runs also the compliance department. And first of all, we want to make sure that all the materials that we're using are according to the law. So there is a lot of regulations on furniture. One of them is the foam. You know, we want to make sure that the foam doesn't have chemicals that is going to give cancer to the end consumer. We're going to also make sure that the glue that is in the furniture is formaldehyde compliance, so that this is not going to affect the fumes into your home. You don't want your home to smell like glue, right? So we're going to make sure that all the dressers or all the furniture that is against the wall, it has anchors so it doesn't fall to you. So all these are compliance things that Steve and his team review on every single one of the products. We also want to use the least amount of new materials, okay? So we're going to take a look and say, hey, if we're going to make this new chair, what can we use from other products? So do we have bases left, or can we use recycled steel to make the base for this chair? Or what is the content of this fabric? We don't want to use 100% new cotton. Can we use recycled polyesters? So all those things help us to have a total percentage of new material use every year. And that's a statement that we can pass to our customers at the end.
And when it comes to a new furniture which I buy, what percentage of that is reused and what percentage is new, or is that varies depending on brand?
Nothing that you buy from us is used. Everything is 100% new. What we do is recycle the materials.
Yeah.
So, for example, the foam. You can produce new foam, but you can use recycled foam. And what is recycled foam? Well, it's the foam leftovers from the other furniture that you recycle again and make it, you know, you can use it again for new furniture. So that's when I'm trying to mean when I say.
Yeah, recycled,
yes.
Yeah. And you manufacture at 5 different countries. How do you decide, which furniture to manufacture where, and how do you choose the country for manufacture?
So each individual country is great at doing each specific product. So, for example, China is really good at making metal and modifying metal products. Office chairs, bar stools, they're fantastic in that. India is great to making all the small accessories, mirrors, cast aluminum. Cast aluminum is one of the only countries that can make that. So that is fantastic for them. Upholstery, this is something we do in Mexico. It's close by, easy to transport, easy to modify. So depending on the material of the product, we're going to use each country.
And where in India are you manufacturing?
We do a lot of it in Moradabad. So we have about 8 factories in Moradabad where we consolidate, and we do some production in Jaipur and Jaipur. Most of our products ship out of Mundra Port.
Mundra Port, okay. And when it comes to furniture, this is a question I always had, because our thought process is maybe the furniture companies operate on very high margins.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts there?
I don't think so. I wish I could have a bigger, I wish I had a plane so I can say that furniture is great. No, it's not. I think the problem with the furniture is it's big, it's bulky. So you have to think of the ocean freight that this chair pay compared to a book. You have to think of the materials that furniture is used. Furniture is big. Furniture needs to be resistant. Furniture needs to be heavy. So that's a lot of the cost. And that's why probably people might get the idea that furniture is expensive.
So one thing that really caught my attention is, which you were just talking about, is the kind of materials you use in the furniture is very important. I didn't know that there were so many intricate details when it comes to buying furniture. As a consumer, how do I know, which furniture to buy? For instance, sometimes when I buy a furniture, I spend a lot of money and then I bring it home and 2-3 days, it breaks, my heart's broken. Hey, I spent so much money and, the furniture is broke. So what advice would you give there, in terms of buying furniture?
I say, do your research beforehand. Make sure that the brand that you're buying it from, the retail store or the manufacturer, has a good reputation. Read your reviews. I mean, that's what they're for. If you're going to buy furniture from myuglyfurniture.com, it might break really fast. But if you are buying furniture from the manufacturer you believe and you trust, and you know that if something goes wrong, they're going to support you 100%, go for them.
Louis, how do you see the future of furniture industry evolving and the role of Zuo Mod?
Furniture is something that we're always going to need. I remember the days that we were worried that the millennials were never going to buy a house and they were going to live traveling, and that didn't happen. I mean, you look at the consumption of homes, the desire, especially of the American dream, is to own your own property. And I'm guarantee you that every couple is always going to look for that first home and how are they going to furnish. So my job at Zuo Modern is to keep that dream alive by providing you the most beautiful furniture for the best cost available. And that way, everybody will keep enjoying their new home. Manufacturing, we will keep looking into more alternative ways of manufacture to be friendlier with the environment and to develop business in more countries.
When it comes to buying furniture, I'm a kind of guy who does not want to invest a lot in furniture. I'm like, I want to buy a cheap furniture, but which looks really, really good, or maybe go to a Walmart or an IKEA and just buy something and just be done with it. So what advice would you give me or someone like me?
So let's talk about two different scenarios. And the first scenario is the rule in furniture. It says that you should spend about 10% of what the cost of your house in the furniture. Okay? So what that means is if you have a home here in the Bay Area and you pay $1 million, you're going to spend $100,000 in the furniture. And why is this rule? Because you want to have the same comparison of quality of the furniture than the quality of the home. Okay? It's not the same if you use that $100,000 in an $8 million house. You're going to make the house look very cheap. But you don't want to put a very expensive $500,000 furniture on a $1 million house because then it's going to look ridiculous, right? So you want to match the home with the furniture that you're doing. And remember this, and this is, I suggest this to the people. The place that you're going to spend the most time is your home. Make it a place that you're going to enjoy. Make it a place that instead of you trying to go out for dinner every night, you want to get home to have dinner in your beautiful dining table and chairs. So treat your home like this is your most secret place, right? In the hospitality world, if you're opening a bar and you're going to need 30 restaurants, you're going to have about 5 people sitting on that bar stool every day. You want to make sure that bar stool is going to last. You want to make sure that you're investing, even if it's $100 or $300, that bar stool is going to last for 3 years at least. Otherwise, your bar is going to look like garbage.
Absolutely.
So match the style of your furniture and your budget with what you have, okay? So leave the IKEA furniture when we were in college.
So I was talking to a cousin of mine, and it resonates with me well because he said something very similar to what you said. He said, hey, I'm going to buy a bed, but I'm going to really spend a lot of money on that because I'm spending 8 hours, like 1/3 of my day, on the bed. So it's very important that I invest in a good bed and not just...
So I'm going to share with you a story. Think about your car, okay? You buy a Lexus and it's $60,000. You're going to drive it for maybe 3 to 5 years, and you're going to depreciate the asset, probably half of the price. So that Lexus is going to cost you in depreciation $30,000, and you're going to drive it 1 hour a day. So that means you're driving it only 300 hours a year, okay? But you're still depreciating that $30,000. Your mattress, you sleep on it 8 hours a day, and you are changing your mattress only every 10 years, if the mattress gets lucky. So, but the mattress only costs $500. Why are you spending so much money on your car? And I'm not asking you to buy a $30,000 mat. There is, in case you want it. But why are we spending so much money in a car when we only spend there 1 hour and not in our mattress that we spend 8 hours a day? So it's the same. If you're going to spend the best hours of your day with your kids having dinner at home, make sure they're in the most beautiful and most comfortable chair, because that time is more important than you driving your Lexus back to work.
I love the analogy between a car and a mattress.
Right?
I think it's a great analogy. So when I was in the San Francisco Bay Area, it was about 10 years ago, or maybe a little longer than that, I wanted to buy a sofa for my house in Fremont. And I wanted to buy a new one. And then I thought, okay, you know what? let me not buy a new one, let me buy a used one. And again, we looked at Craigslist, and I went to somebody's house. It was a black couch. I thought it was really, really good. And I paid a premium for it because he told me that, hey, it's a premium couch and, you got to pay and all that. I said, okay, probably if I buy it outside, it's going to cost me a lot of money. So I pay a premium to him and I buy it. And I buy it and I put it at my house. But then as soon as I put it, right, in a couple of days, I find out that there's a lot of dust. And if I go in, it's very dirty. And I kind of felt really bad, say I bought a used furniture. So what tips would you give for buying a used furniture or used versus new? What are your thoughts there?
Oh, that's a tough question. I suggest don't buy used furniture because you don't know what happened to that piece of furniture before. It's I don't want to tell you all the stories about bacteria that can be out there. So I think adjust to your budget. It's furniture, fabrics, clothing. I mean, if you don't know if it's completely cleaned and desanitized, it might be a hard thing to bring it back to your home.
Yeah, I think that's the mistake I did. I totally relate to that right now. Now that I think about it, probably, it wasn't sanitized, it was a problem. And then, we just had to throw it away, in spite of spending so much
I
money.
think you did the correct thing.
Correct thing. Switching gears a little bit to leadership. So you've been a leader for over 20 years. You've led Zuo Mod as a CEO. What have been some of your biggest learnings or some CEO advice you would share?
It's one of the things that we have, Steve and we have tried to implement at Zuo. We treat this as a family. We are like, we have about 60 people on our staff, and we have been into their weddings. We have been into the baptism of the kids. I mean, we know their personal stories. One of our employees is right now taking their kids to college, and we were all saying congratulations. So we really treat each other like family, and we love that aspect. We're very transparent as well. We tell them the good news and the bad news. We tell them the possibilities, etc. So I think we still treat Zuo as a small business, as a family, and I think why people is here happy to work with us. We have employees that have been in the company for almost 18 years now.
It's amazing, yeah. So take care of people and then they take care of you.
That's correct. That's a great analogy.
Yeah, and even if it's good news or bad news, just communicate. Yeah. Just communication is very important. And let's say somebody who's aspiring in their 20s, just like Louis. Hey, I want to start a business. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to start a furniture company or any company for that matter. What would you like to tell them?
I say don't be afraid of failing. They say that 30% of new companies only survive in the next first 2 years. Everybody else go out of business. But I say when you work really hard, when you have an idea, when you have the desire, and when you have the passion on what you do, you have a great, great bigger chance. So just don't give up. I think the world needs more entrepreneurs. We need more small, medium-sized businesses, create more jobs, and don't be driven just by the money. There is a lot of satisfactions that come with the job. And if you're successful at what you do, software, furniture, you're going to make money no matter what. But the satisfactions, the friendships that you're going to build on the way, the trips, the knowledge, that has no value.
The theme of this podcast is driven. How are you driven as a person?
For me, I don't know. I've been blessed with like energy. I mean, I think I love what I do. For me, the passion that I feel about furniture, when I see a chair, when I see a table, when I see a project completed, when I see the grand opening of a hotel, it's just amazing. I'm going to share a simple story. I remember the first year or two when we were in business, I was visiting one of my customers, a furniture store. And for the first time, I see a person paying for one of my products, like really paying for one of my products. And I was like so blessed. I was like, wow, that person have many different options. She could buy anything she wanted, but she decided to pick on my product. That satisfaction keeps driving me still every day. And now when I go to the warehouse and I see hundreds of boxes shipping out, I still remember that those boxes are going to end up in your house or in my house. They're going to end up in a real application. It's not just a box or a a dream or a chair anymore. It's going to be a lifestyle in your home for the next 5 years. So I love it.
And my last question is, how do you keep yourself updated? What book are you reading right now?
Updated. I love podcasting. Podcasting is, I spend a lot of time traveling. So podcasting is one of my favorite things. Book ones, I'm reading right now the story of Marriott, how he started from a little shack selling root beer and how he is now 6,500 hotels. I mean, one of the biggest challenges here at Zuo is to communicate with 7 different countries where we have warehouses or manufacturers. I think in the book he says he's in 125. So I cannot imagine the amount of problems that he has compared to what we do. But yeah, I mean, Marriott is one of our biggest customers, and I decided to start reading his book, and so far it's great.
And what podcast do you listen to?
So right now, my wife got me into this. It's called Gossip Business, and instead of just learning about business, is all the gossip behind it. So they're talking about all the fights between Elon Musk and all the like Rivian and how are they fighting with each other. So it's pretty interesting. It's short. It's about 30 minutes each, but it just gives you the gossip. And the idea of this is in the morning when you're traveling to work, it's nice to have a laugh, to relax a little bit, to distract your mind and get you prepared for the day that you have in front of you.
Yeah, and you should also subscribe to Driven by DCKAP's podcast as well.
I will do that.
Louis, it's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed chatting with you. One thing which I really learned from this conversation is, hey, let's say you buy a house, 10% of that money goes into furniture. And the analogy you gave between a car and a bed, hey, you're spending more time on the bed, just invest on the furniture makes a lot of sense. I'm actually motivated to go buy new furniture for my house. So, Louis, thank you so much and great chatting with you.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for making our life a little bit easier with all these integrations. That's definitely our favorite part, that working with you. I mean, the integrations you did with us on FedEx and UPS and all the different applications made a whole difference and make you save substantial money in terms of the labor at the company.
Thank you for being a DCKAP customer, and thank you for being a part of this podcast. We have never done one on the furniture industry. This is our first one, and very exciting to learn about the industry. Thank you.
Perfect. My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Driven Podcast. Check out our other episodes for more and subscribe to be the first to access every new episode.